It's a matter of insurance presented by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. Have questions about your insurance coverage? Be sure to call our Consumer Services Division. They can be reached at 1-800-852-3416, consumer services at ins.nh.gov, or be sure to visit our website at insurance.nh.gov. It's Financial Empowerment Month, and I'm excited to be joined today by Lorry Cloutier. She is a Senior Financial Examiner in the Consumer Credit Division at the New Hampshire Banking Department. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, glad to do so.
Similar to the insurance department, most people probably don't know what the banking department is. So what is the New Hampshire Banking Department? What is your role there?
All right. So the New Hampshire Banking Department is an agency for the state that we actually will charter state institutions, so the banks and credit unions, as well as some trust companies and what we consider non-depository entities. So your other mortgage companies and car loans and small loans and the like throughout the state. So what we do is we would go in and we would look at these companies, make sure that they're following the state laws in regards to consumer protection and safety and soundness. And then if there are any concerns, we just help them get back on track. So we are helping both the companies and our consumers of our state.
Yeah, what does a financial examiner do over there? It probably covers a lot of different ground, similar to at the department. We have people that do market regulation, looking through to make sure companies are doing the right thing and rates are making sense of that nature. I mean, how's it work over there?
So same thing, all of our financial institutions are required to be examined every 24 months. So as a financial examiner, I'll get assigned who's ever next, and we'll go in and we will look at their loan files and their company provisions and make sure that the consumers are getting the paperwork and the loans that they were supposed to per the law, and make sure that everything is running as it should.
So why is financial literacy so important for Granite Staters? I feel like it's something that gets thrown out there a lot. We don't necessarily always have the best education in elementary school and such with figuring out how to do our bills and our accounts and things of that nature. Like, why to you do you think it's so important?
Well, I think our commissioner had said it best. I think she had a quote from one of the previous years that said that financial literacy forms the bedrock for many of life's major events, from buying a house or a car, for paying for college and planning for retirement. Financial literate people are generally less vulnerable to fraud and financial scams. And while all year, and especially during Financial Empowerment Month, the banking department recognizes the need to increase education and outreach on this important topic.
When should people start thinking about empowering themselves financially? Should it be yesterday? Should it be 5 years from now? What do you think?
I think it should be from as young as you can. Myself, my parents started me earlier, even than middle school, but we actually have quite a few. We have a couple of programs for younger ages. The Finlit 3000 with the Jumpstart program has various high schools that actually would have like a championship. Raymond's actually won the past 2 years. We've had 6 schools that have qualified for that. Back in the day, there was also CU for Reality. I remember having that where you had both high school and middle school, and you kind of had a mock kind of idea of what your job is and making a budget. And then you had to kind of run around to figure out your housing and your car and your other expenses and actually see how those kind of pieces go in together. But even if you did not have that back in the past, it's still never too late to get financial literacy. And the banking department actually does have quite a few resources on our website, which can be found at www.banking.nh.gov.
So what are some tips to get people started with thinking about financial literacy on a daily basis?
So I would say find out some of those resources that will help. On our website, we actually have financial literacy resources to avoid scams and fraud. So especially some of our older residents can be a lot more susceptible because they might not have had some of those technology advantages that some of the younger ones would have. So being able to kind of be able to see and recognize some of those, that we also have those resources on managing your money or understanding various types of loans, mortgages, and for your home and your car buying, and also foreclosure. So you might have already gotten yourself into a loan and you weren't as financially literate when you're getting it and you're getting into trouble. We also have resources and assistance for that.
An important part of your budgeting and your managing where you're going to be spending your money, insurance 100% should be a part of that picture. So I got to obviously do the tie-ins through the New Hampshire Insurance Department for that, because there's so many ways when you're weighing like how much risk you want to have. Are you able to pay for your car to be replaced should you get into a car accident? I'd say most people cannot afford such a large expense, especially in our current economic climate. So you want to be sure to include working with an independent agent and make sure you're able to have that protection.
Absolutely, I agree. Because I think one of the great ways to start if you don't have a budget yet is to work on that. The basics of that would be able to see what kind of money that you have coming in per month and start breaking down what your fixed costs are. So those that you know you're going to have to pay every month, if you're having to pay your mortgage or your car loan or your insurance, as well as other types of loans or fees, your monthly phone bill and your electricity. And then you also have your variable ones, and you want to make sure that you're also budgeting for those. And that would include, that you have gas, that you're going to have food, and figuring out which ones are, from the groceries versus whether or not you can have some of those extras of going out, and making sure that what you're spending out per month is not more than what you're bringing in.
Anything else we should be thinking about on this?
Really check out our website. We actually have a button for consumer assistance. And for this month in particular, we're even having more news and announcements being posted every couple of months, whether or not that's resources for our federal counterparts, because as I mentioned, we charter the state institutions for those banks, but there are some that are federally, and that would have a federal regulator who's doing the same things that we are doing, but on the federal level. So we have some resources for that, as well as some other tools for both kids and young adults. So I think that's a great resource to start to kind of look for things.
Awesome. I'll put a link in the episode description if you want to check out the resources on the New Hampshire Banking Department website at banking.nh.gov. Lori, thanks so much for joining me today.
It was a pleasure to do so.
So it's Financial Empowerment Month. Be sure to definitely check out the resources there, as well as many financial institutions across the state to have all sorts of resources on their sites that are definitely worth checking out. Get informed and be prepared before things go wrong. It's the way we always think about insurance, but with this, it's the same definitely with your monthly budget. Make sure you're prepared to cover the expenses you need to cover and be prepared for the future. You've been listening to A Matter of Insurance presented by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. Have questions or concerns about your insurance coverage? Be sure to call our Consumer Services Division at 1-800-852-3416, Consumer Services at ins.nh.gov, or insurance.nh.gov for all of our resources on our website.